Hello, everyone. Pat Down at MMA back with another DWCS breakdown. Our last one of the week, episode 16, week 7, Vadym Kutsyi versus Daniel Frunza, some welterweight action. This is a very good fight. I feel like it's a fight of two guys who have each other's weaknesses as their strengths. So I think it's going to be really fun to figure out who can kind of break the other fighter. Going to be getting into Vadym Kutsyi first. So Kutsyi is from Belarus. He is 17-1 and he is on a 10-fight win streak. He trains at Extreme Couture when he's in Vegas, so you know he is getting good rounds in the gym, at least when he comes to the US. I think he trains at Academy at MMA over in Belarus normally. He has a pretty good level of comp, just beat Ismail Nordiev, who was in the UFC and is now back in the UFC. So solid level of comp in his last, I think, 7, 8 fights. Before that, it was really weak. But in his last 7 or 8, he's been stepped up in competition and he still looked just as good. So that's good to note. He just has 6 fights though since 2017, has a max of 1 fight per year. So that's something that's definitely going to need to change. If he does win this fight and it does get signed to the UFC, 1 fight a year just won't cut it, especially because he's not young. He's already being signed to 33 years old if he does win. So yeah, definitely needs to step up his activity. So Kutsyi is very patient and technical. He is lower volume, but he sits very comfortably at range and prefers to fight there. He has some amazing footwork and just kind of moves in and out of range very well with his footwork and thrives more in a slow-paced technical battle. That's really where Kutsyi wants to be. He doesn't want to be in a brawl, doesn't want to be in a war. He wants the fight to be at his pace, and he is good at controlling the pace in fights. He has a really good jab, in my opinion, that he doesn't use enough. It's very stiff and controlling, and he's actually finished fights with shots that have started with the jab, basically. So he has a really nice jab. He uses, like I said, uses it well to set up those other punches, uses it to, throw the overhand right, which is just such quick and powerful shot that he possesses that he's finished a bunch of fights with as well. He has a great rear uppercut, but one of his best shots, in my opinion, is his check left hook. He almost uses it like a jab, where he's using it to keep his opponent off of him, and he's throwing it just as much as he throws his jab, if not even more. So he is in love with that check left hook, and it's one of his best weapons. There are times that Kutsyi does lunge in to try to land punches, and he can be caught in those situations. And on the feet, he just doesn't do well with pressure in general. He starts to lose his defensive strategy and get hit way too much when fighters that are very patient but have good pressure start to fight him. He just doesn't like being in that close pocket. He likes to be at range. Some of his takedowns are a bit telegraphed. A lot of his best takedowns do come in the clinch. His traditional takedowns really don't come well for him. His takedowns in the clinch, those trips are really what does best. He has some good takedown defense that he usually goes and then turns into offense. He will defend a takedown and then in turn shoot a takedown on his own, or either honestly like reverse the position completely. He has some very solid back control. He knows how to stay on the back for long periods of time and make his opponent uncomfortable there. And he is very comfortable on his back. Kutsyi is a very opportunistic grappler. He really just waits for his opponent to make a mistake on the ground and then capitalizes. But because of that, if his opponent isn't moving a lot and isn't giving him anything, then he can be a very, very boring grappler at times. It just will lay on top and do really nothing. With that said, though, he does have an amazing submission game, can jump guillotines, sink in chokes out of nowhere. Just like I said, just waits for those mistakes and then just capitalizes like very quickly. And then his only loss, 17-1, his only loss was very weird. He seemed to have hurt his left leg in the first minute and then fell and then got swarmed after falling, and the ref just immediately called it off before anything really happened when his opponent landed on top. It was such a strange fight. I don't think it should be ruled like a TKO due to punches. I think it should be like a TKO due to a leg injury. And looking here, it is a TKO due to punches. So it kind of gives you the wrong impression of how that fight actually went, in my opinion. Moving into Daniel Frunza here. So Daniel Frunza is Romanian, but he has lived in Italy for most of his life. He's 8-2 and on a 4-fight win streak. He has 7 of his 8 wins by knockout. He does have a 2-0 record in LFA. Frunza is also 30 years old and a very nice 6'1" for the weight class, solid size on him. And he's also a very patient fighter. He's very technical, very sharp, very great hands. That's what his best is. He's a very great pressure boxer, and he's constantly moving and circling. Frunza is solid at range, but he does like to get up close and let his hands go, just unleash those hands. That's really where he shines, is when he gets up close gets that pressure in and unleashes those hands. Frunza is great at firing off kicks at range, and he kicks at all three levels very well. Leg, body, head, very well, just firing off like roundhouse kicks, teep kicks. He has a very well arsenal of kicks. He has big right hand with a lot of power and fires it off quickly just by itself. He doesn't even really set it up in combination. He just kind of fires off that right hand whenever he feels like it. He has some solid grappling defense and clinch control, and has some really good shots off the break with just some solid hands, solid elbows, great counters and timing, but he doesn't throw in combination enough. His chin is solid, but his defense isn't the best at times. He can be countered when he's kicking, especially. And I don't love his kicking defense. He does get hit by kicks a lot, and I think that he will be hit by kicks a little bit in this fight. His grappling isn't great either. His takedown defense is not good. He gets taken down in a lot of his fights, but sometimes he can fight off, sometimes he can't. His get-ups are really where his ground game is the best, I'd say, because he kind of just forces his way up strength-wise and gets it back to where he wants it. Frunza does have some great cardio that carries his power later into fights, and he can stay good cardio wise for 15 minutes, but he does give up his back at times, gets caught in bad positions. He powers through submissions, but he does get wrapped up pretty easily, and high level grapplers will control and submit him in fights. It's happened twice before. Um, he does have some really good ground and pound. He can get some reversals later in fights and start to land some ground and pound, but he has improved significantly as of late. That's the thing I'll say about Frunza. This four-fight win streak, he has looked like a significantly better fighter than he did earlier on in his career. So those improvements do seem to be coming, and he does seem to be a quality caliber potential UFC fighter. For my prediction for this fight, it's a very tough one because I feel like both guys kind of have, like I said, have the strengths where the other has weaknesses. Like Kutsyi is a great grappler, great at submissions. Frunza is bad at grappling and bad at submission defense. And Kutsyi has bad striking defense when the guys start to pressure, and that's what Frunza's best at is pressure boxing. So both of these guys will exploit each other's weaknesses, in my opinion, in this fight. It just depends on who can really capitalize first and really find the finish. It's going to be very tough. I do think this fight is a lot closer than the betting odds suggest, but I do think Vadym Kutsyi will figure out a way to power through and get the submission victory in round two. I could easily see Daniel Frunza wearing down Kutsyi as the fight gets later and ending up getting a later finish or even maybe an earlier one because he has had a couple of those recently. But I do think I trust Vadym Kutsyi. He has more experience in general. He's fought solid competition. I think he'll have the experience and have the well-rounded nature of his game to be able to get the fight finished on the ground. If not, maybe win a decision, but I will pick Vadym Kutsyi by second round submission to win this fight. I wanted to thank you all for joining me for my last episode of week 7. Tune back in for week 8 action, and please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe for the rest of these breakdowns for the rest of the season. I hope you all enjoyed.